right, and welcome back to another great episode of hashtag Screw the W2. And today I got a great guest on who actually incorporated W2 into his name. It's Jay Helms of the W2 Capitalist. Jake, welcome to the show.
John, thank you for having me. I love the name of your podcast, by the way.
Oh,
I,
thanks.
I do. I love it. I
So
love it.
yeah, I started just doing this as a YouTube channel. I don't know, bring it on to Spotify and whatnot. But yeah, just I don't know, came up with a name and tended to rhyme, and it just went from there.
I like it. I like
Yeah.
it.
So Jay, maybe I know we connected, on LinkedIn and social media, have been following each other, but for my listeners, maybe that have never, heard of you and heard of the W2 Capitalist, can you, take a step back and take us back to, what was your previous W2 job and what was kind of like your typical day or average day?
Yeah, so I grew up in the technology industry,
Okay.
graduated with a BS in computer science, and it really was a BS degree, and went to work immediately as a help desk call center person that we were talking about, and kind of
Sure.
worked my way up, the corporate ladder for about 20 years. But my last W-2, I was a director of sales. We sold cybersecurity and remote work productivity
Oh, okay.
solutions, and so I effectively ran a sales team, and uh, I know we're going to get into this, but one of the things I actually loved that job. It was, I got laid off May 1st, 2020. I know the exact date, and now it's on my calendar as a date that we actually celebrate. It's an anniversary, right?
All right.
And probably didn't do that in the first 6 months to a year
Sure.
because of all the transition and everything. But it's been the best blessing in disguise, and I do miss the folks that I work with that worked under me. Because when I came, this was a technology company. The product they offered was incredible, right?
Okay.
But their internal systems, I mean, it was a mom and pop store. I mean, we were talking about this with you, where two brothers started it. They had grown it and they had, sold it off, and the people who had bought it were coming in and trying to make some things better and improvement. And
Yeah.
they brought me in, and I got to introduce a lot of new systems and processes. And probably what I enjoyed the most, probably what I missed the most, was the coaching sessions. I'd have one-on-one coaching sessions with my teammates
Hmm.
every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And, there's two questions we come in there to answer is, here's things that I think you can do better, Mr. Employee. And then they give it right back to me.
Ah,
Hey boss, here's things that I think you can do better. And
gotcha.
the first couple of meetings like that were super awkward, right? And you're
Sure.
like, what am I going to say?
Like, I don't want to say anything bad to my
I don't
boss.
want,
He's going to
yeah.
fire me.
But over time, over like the I don't know, 6 months, 9 months, whatnot. I know I was there for a year before I got laid off. It really got into creating some special bonds and understanding one
Mhm.
another and really helping those folks succeed. And that was highly, highly rewarding for
Cool.
sure.
So, yeah, I think in
Yeah.
the management world, they call that the, was it the 360 feedback, where it isn't just a boss yelling at all the employees. It's like, well, I'm the boss, no one can touch me. I'm perfect. I
Yeah.
never make mistakes. So good to hear that there was at least that culture. It's like, hey, I just reamed you a new one. Hey, do the same to me.
Well, you got to be careful with that. You got
Yeah.
to have the right atmosphere. You got to have the right trust level with your boss, because I came from an environment where they're like, "Hey, give us your honest opinion, give us your honest feedback,"
Sure.
and I did. I'm a guy who speaks my mind. I probably spent no, I not probably. I don't know which I spent more time in. It was either the HR office when I was in corporate America, or it was the principal office in grammar school, right?
Ah,
So,
okay.
but I spent a lot of time there, and one of the things I learned 2 jobs ago is you got to have the right environment to give that feedback,
Yep.
because, and here's how you'll know is if you give your honest feedback, you may not get berated about it immediately, but when it comes to review time and they start bringing up stuff that you
Yep.
said when they ask for your honest feedback, and it's like, here's why we're not giving you a raise, and they
Yep.
start listing off things that you said, that's
Yeah.
not the right kind of environment that you
Yeah.
want to give your honest feedback in
Yeah,
as an
well, they didn't hear.
employee.
It's like,
So
so when you say honest feedback, you want me to lie. Got it. Okay.
yeah. I learned a very valuable lesson when it came to that. So it
Yeah.
was so listen, if you don't trust your boss, maybe you trust him with a little tidbit of information.
Yeah.
You gotta have the right environment to be able to provide that feedback, and I felt like I provided that. But then again, I was the boss, so who knows
Sure.
what happened. Once they left the room, they're like, that blankety blank blank, blank, they were just cussing me up. But it was, I really missed those folks, I haven't talked to most of them in quite a while. Hope they're doing
Okay.
well, you know, kind of thing. So, but yeah, it was a punch in the gut. May 1st, 2020. Wasn't
Right.
expecting it at all.
Sure. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we sold remote productivity software. Okay,
Yep.
so think of like Office 365,
Mhm.
and then the security solution that was wrapped around that. And we're in the height of COVID. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Exactly.
And leading up to, and we really had, like I said, I was only there a year, but leading up to that, I'd only been there a year, and we were really starting to find our stride. We unfortunately we had a sales quota that had a cap on it. Never understood why that was happening, but 4 out of the last 6 months, like leading up to COVID, we hit our stride, and we were exceeding our quota.
Okay.
And then they started announcing layoffs, and I got one of those
Jeez.
phone calls, and I was like, "Help me understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Help
Well,
me
and you
understand."
figure, even the take out the remote work, just the cybersecurity part. It's like I think every week there's some, a
It
hospital system's
is.
locked down by hackers,
Yep.
or, the
Yep.
one pipeline that got hacked and an energy
Yeah.
reactor and whatnot. So, I think
Well,
cybersecurity is pretty important.
hindsight's 2020, right? So now a couple years have gone by. About a year after that layoff, they sold the company.
Ah,
So you can kind of look and see, read between the lines. There was some strategy there of, all right, we're
yep,
going to lay a bunch of people off. We're going to make our bottom line look amazing
yep,
because of, we don't have the salary and
yep,
expenses go there, and our revenues are just going to be incredible because of what COVID's
yep.
forcing employers to do. And then
Exactly.
and then they
And
sold
we're
the
going to do
company.
it
I'm like,
quick enough that, okay, the revenues aren't going to taper off because of the
yeah,
lack of support. So, yeah, I think they
yep.
call that cooking the books in the accounting
That's
world. So,
it seems very interesting,
yeah,
yeah, but anyway, best kick in the pants I ever received.
sure.
I
So,
can't blame them for that at all. I actually felt bad for my boss who made the call. I have three
yeah.
kids, and at the time they were 5, 3, and 1.
Wow.
And can you imagine as a boss, like, calling an
Yeah,
employee
I wouldn't want
just
that
had a
job.
baby?
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't. It would
Yeah.
be rough. Be rough.
So,
But
yeah. Well, as you mentioned a number of times, May 1st, 2022 or 2020, excuse me, that was your got fired day. And eventually later
yeah.
on, it turned out to be, best thing that ever happened. But, I know you kind of had a 180 shift at that point. You didn't really have time to plan. But what were, after you're fired, what were your next steps? Did you
Mm.
have anything in the pipeline? Were you working on anything that, okay, I lost this income, but I have this to fall back on? So,
Yeah, yeah. So my immediate next steps were to mope around the house and try to figure out why was this happening, right? But
always
no,
productive.
yeah. It took about 3 days, and then I finally just made a decision of we were going to go full time at real estate investing, and
Okay.
go on the W-2 capitalist. So part of that story is kind of left out. We actually started actively investing in real estate in 2014,
Okay.
and bought our first single family residence. It was a $25,000 purchase. And I had those fears of, oh man, this is going to make us go bankrupt. Of course, at the time we were living paycheck to paycheck, right, and
Yep.
and whatnot, and so it was a lot of money at that point in time. And so we slowly and steadily grew our portfolio up until 2020, and so there was some cushion to fall back on. So there
Okay.
was a parachute. It just goes to justify one of the things that we teach and preach in the W-2 capitalist is having multiple streams of income.
Yep.
It's no longer a luxury. It's a requirement.
Hmm.
Because on that day, half of my sales team got the same call. Right now,
Yep.
luckily, my boss didn't call me and say, "Okay, you got to lay off these 4 people," and then I got the call. I've
I'll
heard of
take
the
that
part.
hard. I'll take that job off your hands.
Yeah. They actually, and so I started getting all these calls from folks at work. Hey man, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I was like, you know what? First off, if you want a reference, I'll be a reference for you. They're like, I'm updating my resume. I'm applying for these jobs, but what are you going to do? Will you come work for this? Like there was a couple of employees that they went to work for this one company, and they kept telling their HR person, hey, you need to hire this guy. You need to hire this guy. And she calls me, and to get a reference for somebody else. There was a third person on our team, and um, we started talking, and she figured it out. She goes, "Oh wait, you're the guy who's kind of sworn off going back to corporate America and never doing the W-2." I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, yeah, I did," and I was very public with it on social media, and it was one of those cases, burn the bridges. I don't want to go back,
Sure.
and some of it was out of anger. If I'm transparent, it was out of anger at the time, like "f you," kind of
Yep.
thing, and but I just I kind of been pushed around corporate America. I feel like my entire career, and it was time to man up and actually do something.
Sure.
And to not, I think my family's proud of me, but actually make myself proud of being able to build something right and do that thing. Matter of fact, I say my family's proud of me. My parents still ask me. I haven't had a W-2 in 2 years, and every time I see them, they're like, "So when are you going to get a job again?"
Yep.
I'm like, I'm not getting a job. We've been traveling for the last 18 months or 16 months or so, and I was like, I've got a company. We've got our
Yep.
investments. Our portfolio is producing better than it's ever have. I was like,
Hmm.
why would I go back to work?
Exactly.
Um, and so yeah, I I basically, you talk about next steps. It took a while. Well, the first thing happened really is when I hung up with my boss. Like I got the call right, and I went in there, head slooping and kind of a cold sweat because I
Mm.
didn't know what to do, and I told my wife, "Hey, just got a call. Here's what's happening." And instantly she goes, "Great, we can now go travel like we want to." And I'm like,
I
"Wait, wait a
told you
minute,
I was fired, and the first thing you say is great.
wait a minute. Let's pump the brakes here for a minute." And I was like, we because it was some of the easiest money, low six figures that I was making. And for that to be gone away, I don't care. You kind of, as you grow, and I can kind of see why people get sucked into staying in a job forever
Yep.
because they get used to their lifestyle, right? And they get
Yep.
used to everything
Lifestyle
that comes
creep.
with it. Yeah, lifestyle creep. I was trying to think of that. And we were definitely there. And I was like, look, if we want to stay in this house, if we want to do things that we want to do, like travel, we got to go in financial lockdown. We're,
Yep.
we're we got to document every penny that's spent. And for the next year and a half or so, next year really, we did that. And then we started figuring out, okay, we took on a lot more debt than we ever had before. Um, and it took a couple of years for us to get back to that level, actually even more. This actually at the end of 2021, I was trying to think of my taxes, what tax year we're on. I hate taxes, by the way. I hate freaking doing that. But our total income was the most it's ever been,
Yep.
and that's 1 year after, of all no W-2 income whatsoever.
Hmm.
But it was because there was a lot of hustle and grind, and now I feel like we've seen the success of what that is. We're just pouring gas on the fire as
Sure.
far as growing the W-2 capitalist, but also with our investments. So we didn't buy anything in 2020.
Okay.
We bought one property in 2019. In 2021, we bought one,
Okay.
and then this year we've done four different investments,
Cool.
and so it's starting to pick up, um, and so yeah. But back to your question, what did we do immediately? I mean, that was it. We went on. All right, here's six figures that's going away. We
Hmm.
got to figure out, like, we got to make some adjustments and changes. And one of those adjustments and changes, kind of to line up with what my wife was wanting to do, travel, was to convert our excuse me, our single family home, our primary residence, into an Airbnb.
Okay.
And so, which is where we're recording this now. But
Okay.
we got back here Monday, and other than a few weeks here and there, we've been gone for the last 15 months.
Wow.
Just traveling. We lived in an RV for 6 months. It's pretty tough with three kids.
Yeah.
By the way,
Just start
uh,
driving and have them run, after the RV and catch up.
well, there was days where I would take off and go to the store and get something, and if it took me longer, I'd get back, and my wife would jokingly, she says, "I was beginning to wonder if you just left us." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
well, not yet, but
Well, I said I was running to
not
the
yet.
store. I never said which store and how far away the store was.
Yeah, I didn't tell you it was the Walmart in California.
Yeah.
We're staying in Tennessee, so it was. But yeah, we made those adjustments and had to change our lifestyle, which I know a lot of people aren't willing to do. But
Mm,
now, the memories that we've been able to make the last year and the quality time we've been able to spend with our kids is just it's
mm,
I don't know if the correct word is immeasurable, unmeasurable. I mean, it's just we've seen our kids grow up in the last more in the last year than we have their entire lives, right? And
sure.
just think about that though, because we have freedom to go and do what we want to. If I didn't
Mm,
want to sit here and talk to you, I wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? Like but I
right.
know, but the kids. So we homeschool our kids, and so right now they're in homeschool. So
Okay.
it's like perfect timing that and the other time I record podcasts is or stuff like this is when the kids are asleep. So the girls
Sure.
still take an afternoon nap, or it's late at night when everybody's typically already gone to bed. And so we just get to see them a lot more. And I kind of go back on May 1st, 2020. Man, that
Yeah.
was it was at the moment it happened. It sucked. It was scary. There was anxiety all over the place for several
Yeah.
months following. Because and I so I find myself eating my words a lot. So when I will, as being a parent, I'll try to, guide them and give them examples.
Mhm.
And the other day, my son was doing something and he got really frustrated. That he wasn't perfect at it. Right. And I
Okay.
just look at him and I said, hey, man, where do you get the expectation that something you've never done, you're going to be a professional at it? Like you're
Mhm.
going to be perfect for it. He's, what do you mean, Dad? I was like, you've never done whatever he was doing. I can't even remember. It's probably playing a game or something. I was like,
Sure.
you've never played this game before in your life. Why are you getting frustrated that you didn't beat, this level, whatever you're doing? And he kind of sat back and says, I don't know. And after we finished the conversation, I was like, okay, listen to your own words. Stop getting frustrated about there's, something I've never done before and expecting to be perfect at it or being professional at it. And same thing with our youngest daughter has a security blanket still,
Mm.
right? And so like the other kids, she's getting to that age where I start like trying to take it away,
Yeah.
and you know I will get frustrated with her and be like, what, your security, it's a security, you don't need it, you
Hmm.
don't need it, let's just try to take a nap without it.
Yeah.
And she gets real upset, give it back to her, she goes to sleep, she's fine, she's comfortable, right? But think about what most of our security blankets are,
Yeah.
right? Is your W-2 income,
Hmm.
right? It's always, for me, it was there for 20 years. So for me to take a 180 from having that security blanket to now relying on just my entrepreneur activities to provide for our family of five,
Right.
there should be a little bit of anxiety and stress and like frustration that it's not perfect. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it is one of those things where I love being a parent. At times it's very 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 frustrating, but it allows me to really adhere to my own advice and kind
Sure.
of give myself some grace. Really give myself a little bit of a break. So
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. Now, yeah, obviously you kind of obviously allude to, the great things that have happened and the freedom that you've been able to have over the last 2+ years since, getting fired. With that
yeah.
being said, has there, been any regrets for not having a W-2 job anymore? Anything you do miss from your old, security blanket, if you will?
I don't I do miss the people
Okay.
that I interacted with on a daily basis. And it's like anything else. The most of the time with the people you interact with, there is some common thing that's brought you together, right? Whether it's your kids playing or it's a coworker or it's a partnership that you've established through real estate investing. Um, I miss the people. The only regret is I wish I would have had the balls to do it on my own, right? I don't think I would have ever gotten to a point where I was, all right, this is enough. We have enough cash flow from our properties.
Sure.
I'm going to stop working and we're just going to do this full time. So while I'm appreciative of that, I regret not taking my life into my own hands and allowing somebody else to do it, and also not doing it sooner. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's the only thing. But I do miss the people that
Sure.
I don't get to interact with anymore.
Yeah, that's been a pretty common theme from other entrepreneurs that I've talked to. I think I've only had one. He flat out said, "Nope, there's nothing I miss. I miss the people." It's like, wow, okay, so hats off to you. That worked out well. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's some of the people I don't miss.
well, yeah, I think we all have that. So, but now, just out of curiosity, and you've been on this journey now for about 2.5 years at the time of this recording. If any of my listeners are, maybe they're in a similar position, they feel stuck, they have that security blanket, they hate their job, hate their boss, whatever the case may be, but they
Yeah, all
just
of the
feel,
above.
yeah, exactly. But maybe they just feel stuck, oh, I'm not a good investor. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not a business owner. I can't do it. I'm gonna uh, you know, miss out on my insurance benefits or whatever the golden
Mm.
handcuffs are that they have. What advice would you give to them for anyone that does feel stuck and unwilling to take that step?
So it's a broad question, right?
Yeah, one day I'll figure out how to shorten that out. But
There's a lot of things to unpack. But here's the thing: if here's the advice I'll give them, as I'm looking up to the right to try to think of my answer here, is whether you believe it or not, you know that is the answer, right? If you think you can't do it, then you can't do it,
yeah,
right? And where I want to challenge you is most people, at least this is one of the sales things that I was taught and firmly believe in. There's two things happening with most people who are stuck, right? Either A, they don't have the confidence and know how to build their own self confidence to be able to take that next step or take that leap. And that could be changing jobs, right? Or it could be quitting a job to focus on real estate investing. And the other thing is they're really not in enough pain to make a change, and they just like to complain about it. And guess what?
yep,
If that's you, nobody likes to hear you complain. Okay, buckle up, grab some courage, and accept either A, your situation is not as bad as you're telling yourself, or
yeah,
B, it really is, and you need to do something about it, and nobody can help you except for you. I mean, whoever that person is, they have to be the one that makes the decision to jump. And I'm speaking from experience because, again, I didn't have the courage to do that. I had to get laid off from
yep,
a job that I actually really liked
right,
for that to happen. And so it's a very complicated mess. Everybody's situation is a little bit different. There's some commonalities in almost everybody who's in that situation, and I think that's where the value that the W2 capitalist brings is that's where a lot of folks come is, hey, this is my tribe. These are people who are working full time, trying to escape the rat race,
mm-hmm.
trying to escape your job. By the way, if you don't like your job or you're frustrated with your job, you don't trust your boss, right now is a perfect opportunity to go
Yep,
find another job and get a pay raise.
yep,
And if you can just find the confidence to just take it one step at a time, go apply somewhere else.
yep,
You're not going to get fired because you apply somewhere else. If you do, then chances are you should be leaving anyway. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And so, and the reason why I say that is I was stuck in a job. I was a principal at this IT company. We got acquired. Acquisition was not going well. Then we got acquired again from some hedge fund private
yep,
equity groups. And you mentioned earlier on when those folks acquire a business,
all about
they
the
run it
bottom
a lot
line.
differently. It
Yeah,
is all about the bottom line. You're just a number. And I had had enough, and I started doing this whole process. But I wish I would have left there, a lot sooner. Because when I went to this new company, the old company I was at, I hid what I did from a real estate investing standpoint. Nobody knew anything about until one of my partners one day posted something on social media and tagged me in it. We closed on this apartment complex, and I was like, oh dang. And so like the next couple of weeks, I see our president of our company, and he comes over, he taps me on the shoulder, and he whispers in my ear, "Hey man, I want to know more about this real estate investing stuff you're doing." And I was like, "Oh shit."
you saw my social
And
media crap.
yeah. And so I thought it was going to be a good thing, but back to the being honest and then the
Yep,
giving it back to you at your review. That's where that comes from, because a lot of questions then became, what was he a full-time investor or is he a full-time employee?
yep,
And so, but then I transitioned to this company And through the interview process and everything, when they're, hey, what's, I think one of the questions was, what's something interesting about you? And I was like, well, I'm a real estate investor on the side.
Mhm.
And everybody through the interview process was extremely interested in that. So I get hired, and then I get introduced to the sales floor. There's probably like 40 people there as the new director of, direct sales. And so I have to introduce myself, and I have to give a 5-minute speech, and I'm telling everybody a little bit about my background. And that was it. And then I'll look over at my boss, who was the international VP of sales, and he looks at me and just kind of gives me this dumb look on his face. He goes, "Is that it? Is that all you're gonna say?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're expecting me to do here."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Okay." He's being very humble. He actually does some really cool real estate investing stuff on the side. If you're interested in that, take him to lunch, buy him coffee. He's done really well with it. And at that
Mhm.
moment, I knew I was in a totally different world,
Mhm.
and I was like, wow, there's companies that exist like this.
Yeah.
And and I would have never known that if I wouldn't have found the courage to start applying and start looking,
Hmm.
and they treated me well. And then they started making, he left. Another guy came in, and then that's when they started making moves to lay
Ah,
people off and sell the company. So, um, a lot to unpack there. But yeah, I would say, and here's one thing I offer. Everybody's situation is different. I love talking to people about this. I
mhm.
feel it's my calling to help folks. So I give out my cell phone number when we come on these podcasts. So whenever the time is to do that, I'll give that, my email, whatever. If you call me, or I'm not going to answer right away. By the
Yeah.
way, I'm not. Text me, say, hey, I heard you on John's YouTube
Yeah.
channel. I would love to talk with you, and then I'll answer when you call, or
Sure.
I'll call you right back. But it's one of those things where I was fearful at providing that my cell phone number when I first did it, and then I realized, you know what? The people who are in enough pain, who are stuck, like you're talking about,
Yeah.
who need the most help, those are the folks who are going to actually pick up the phone and call, right, or text
Exactly.
or do whatever, and those are the people that I want to help.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's do it.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Well, and actually, goes into our last talking point, your, I don't know, soapbox moments, so to speak, where can people find you or how can people reach out to you and what projects are you working on? What are you excited about most for 2023? I mean, take it from there.
yeah,
The floor is yours.
yeah. So w2capitalist.com is the landing page for everything W2 Capitalist. My Amazon bestseller book, Make an Offer, is, you can grab it there. You can find out more about the mastermind. Oh, let me give you my cell phone number. So it's 205-249-0248 and 205-249-0248. But yeah, w2capitalist.com is all things W2 Capitalist. And probably what I'm most excited about for 2023 is we recently launched, and I say recently launched, 2 weeks ago, we closed on our first loan with a group called W2 Cap Capital, which I'm a co-founder of.
Okay.
It basically was a spinoff of, the mastermind members. We have virtual calls like this, like over 20 a month that we get on. And some of the
Wow.
constant feedback and some of the stuff that we kept hearing was, hey, I need access to quick capital. Hey, I need access to capital. Hey, I need to close these deals. And I worked on trying to create a couple of different partnerships. And then finally, a couple of mastermind members says, "Hey, why don't we just develop this? Why don't we just create it?" And so we did that at the beginning, probably um, middle of the year this year, probably around May, is when
Okay.
we kind of started everything. We officially soft launched in August. We closed our first loan in September, and things are starting to roll. Like we've got a closing tomorrow on two different properties,
Wow.
and it's a resource, and we're for mastermind members and our co-founders connections for capital to close on properties and real estate investment. So I'm most excited to see where that goes, and
Okay.
because it is serving a need, and it's a very matter of fact, the two guys the one that we're closing tomorrow, actually it might be today. I forget.
Sure.
But the two that we've closed on, have now already said, "Hey, look, I enjoyed the process. Like they're starting to refer people to us because it's so easy to do. And the reason why we kind of get away from a lot of the red tape is because we only lend to people who we have a known relationship to.
Ah,
You know what I
gotcha.
mean? So it's one of those where we know you, we know your heart, we know where you're focused, we know your experience. It's not something you just completely filled out on a spreadsheet.
Sure.
And so that not only makes it an easier process, but our back end lending partners, our private money folks,
Okay.
that gives them some peace of mind, right? That we know these folks, and it's not just somebody who filled out a form or something
Right.
like
Or
that,
some bot that filled out with,
or
information.
yeah, somebody who's gonna do us all wrong, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah, I'm most excited about that, and also with the mastermind, we've had, and I keep calling it a master. One of the things we're talking about with the folks that help me run that is, should we call it a mastermind? Because really, it's just a peer community,
sure.
of people who are doing all the same things that real estate investors do. Um, One of the things we've been able to celebrate 2 years in a row is in 2021 we had 5 people build their portfolio and build their experience up enough to exit the W-2 on their own terms,
Okay.
right? So this year we've had 4 so far. We've got one, maybe 2 more that their goal is to be able to do that by the end of the year. And I think they can. They just got to, no, let me back up. They're there financially. They just got to be okay with daddy taking away their security blanket, that
Right.
W-2 income, and they'll be okay. Um, and that's that. I'm excited to see what happens in 2023 with that too, because we have the market, most of the markets that we're in, or our peer communities in, those are starting to shift. Buying opportunities are starting to happen. Cash
Mhm.
flows at an all-time high. I mean, get away from the negative stuff that mainstream media talks about
Yep.
of looming recession and all this. We just don't see it happening that
Yeah.
way. We see it as a buying opportunity, and if and as I mentioned earlier, we've done 4 deals this year so far. I wouldn't have done those 4 if I felt like those markets were going to be an issue. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
So no, yeah, thanks for sharing that, and thanks for getting out all your contact information and what you're all working on. So, Jay, it's
yeah,
been a pleasure to have you on the show. I wish you nothing but success in 2023, and keep on knocking out the earn invest. I'm assuming it's repeat on the
a repeat.
rest of your
Yeah,
share
yeah,
there. So,
yeah.
but yeah, thanks again for
Thank you,
coming
John.
on.
Appreciate you having me.